Well, I appreciate everybody coming. Now that you heard the sermon, well, had a benediction. Fantastic. Fantastic. There's so many times and so many ways we hear just about this. Turn it back just a little bit. Nah, nobody knew that. We're going to just look at Daniel 3. We're going to look at 8 through 30. That tells the story that we're talking about. And there's a couple of ways sometimes we don't look at it. And I've not been... some people don't like some of my sermons because it tells the truth who we are as Christians. And it's not all roses and sunshine. There are fires in our lives. There are trials, you might say, as we'll find out what they went through. Let's look at this. Therefore, at that time, certain Chaldeans came forward and accused the Jews. They spoke and said to King Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever. You, O king, have made a decree that everyone who hears the sound of the horn, flute, harp, lyre, and psaltery, and symphony with all kinds of music shall fall down and worship the gold image. Whoever does not fall down and worship shall be cast in the midst of a burning fiery furnace. There are certain Jews whom you have set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not paid due regard to you, which I've set up. Now, if the horn, the flute, harp, lyre, psaltery, and symphony with all kinds of music, and you fall down and worship the image which I have made, good. But if you do not worship, you shall be cast immediately into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. And who is this God who will deliver you from my hands? Well, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O King Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. If that is the case, our God whom we serve is in furnace. He will deliver us to be known to you, O king, that we do not serve your gods, nor will we worship the gold images which you have set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar, being full of fury, and the expression of the face changed toward them. He spoke and commanded that they heat the furnace 7 times more than it was usually, and were cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, because the king's command was urgent, and the furnace exceedingly hot, the flame of the fire killed those men who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then King Nebuchadnezzar was astonished, saying to the counselors, did not we cast 3 men bound into the fire? They answered and said to him, true, O king. He said, look, I see 4 men loose walking in the midst of the fire, not hurt, and the form of the 4th is like the Son of God. Then Nebuchadnezzar went near the mouth of the burning furnace and spoke, saying, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out and come here. Then they came from the midst of the fire, and the satraps, ministers, governors, and the king's counselors gathered together, and they saw the fire had no power. The hair of their head was not even singed, nor were their garments affected. The smell of the fire was not on them. And Nebuchadnezzar spoke, saying, blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who sent his angel and delivered his servants who trusted in him. And they have frustrated the king's word and yielded their bodies and should not serve nor worship any God except their own God. Therefore, I now make a decree that my people, nation, and language which speaks anything amiss against the God of these men shall be cut in pieces, and their houses shall be made an ash heap, because there is no other God who can deliver like this. And then the king promised them in the province of Babylon. We find the foremost, we see obedience to God should take precedence of human authority or fearing punishment. They demonstrated what true believers stand firm. Their convictions, trusting God with an outcome, no matter the cost, the story. It highlights several principles, and we'll look at those. The first principle that we want to find here is faith over fear. And the Bible goes on to tell us that ours is not a spirit of fear. Our very own spirit should not have fear. When we find fear coming against us, we stand strong. But are we going to have fear? Yes, we are. But what do we do with it? How do we stand in faith with the fear that's in us? Can we truly stand strong? Can we truly not bow to the kings that are putting the statues in front of us? Statues that they put, but what about the the ones that need to go, the ones that we need to die to daily. How do we stand against those? In the faith that they demonstrated, knowing that God will walk with you no matter what furnace you're going through, no matter what fires come upon you, to know that we have faith over the fear because of the strength of Christ, not the strength of ourselves. We do. Now, I'm not telling you to nothing. That's not the faith I'm talking about. That's temptation. But we're going to find things in our lives that will try us. We're going to find furnace that we go into sometimes, and God uses those furnaces because He tells us that He will melt and separate the precious metals, mold them into what He needs, and sometimes metal has to be heated to be bent. Sometimes metal has to be heated to be cut, to be molded. He takes these from raw ore, and this metaphor of this extends only to how God tests and refines the faith. He tests, refines our faith by these furnaces. He tested their faith that day as putting them in the spot where they had to decide, to make a decision. Many times we find in our own lives, we find ourselves making that decision. Where do we stand? What do we believe? How do we handle this? Well, if I do this, the world's going to look at me this way, or that person will look at me like this, or that person will look at me like that, or that person will want to throw me in a furnace somewhere. But we stand with faith over fear, trusting in His hand. And that faith must be continued with an even if faith. You notice they said, even if He don't save us from the fire, we still are not going to bow to your gods. We still prioritize God's dominance over our lives and who He is in our lives, His love and trust and strength to guide us through our lives, even if we'd like or we expect. Faith is the strength that He gives us. Can I stand in the faith that the angel is going to walk in the fire with us? The very Son of God will walk through that fire because He's there. He's already been through it. He knows how to get us through it. And even if faith stands in to say, okay, I've got to do this because of Him, not me. Understanding in our lives that faith and faith over fear carries through because He is who He is, not we are who we are. And in those times of trials, understand that He's working in us, molding in us, but walking in us to increase our faith, to increase our strength. He tells us He gives everybody a certain amount of faith. And what we do with that faith is we either exercise it or we go like muscles. If they're wrong because they don't have enough faith. For them to come up and stand up front and ask for healing and call for the elders of the church takes more faith than you have to walk up there and put hands on them. But what it says is we must be willing in this time to trust God with it, to walk with Him, to be with Him, and let Him work in our lives to show us what He has for us, who He is for us. That's an even if faith. And we look, number 3, as divine presence in trials. God didn't spare them from being thrown into the fire, but He entered that fire with us. And like we say, He doesn't prevent us from facing suffering. He doesn't prevent us from facing hardship. But He's a present comfort to sustain and protect us through this, through the trials we go through. Number 4, He has an uncompromising integrity. It warns us against bowing to social pressure. It warns us against bowing to the demands of what culture says. It serves as a reminder that we make these small compromises can lead to abandoning faith, or standing firm can be a witness to others. Now, here's one way we haven't looked at this. We forget and don't look at Nebuchadnezzar because he's looked at as the bad guy. He's the one that said, "Heat it 7 times." They didn't follow my presence. They didn't follow what I commanded. And throw them in. And it was so hot, it burned the guards and the ones that threw them in just by walking close to it. But when they went through it, what happened to Nebuchadnezzar? When they came out, anyone that disrespects or talks against this God of these 3 men will be hacked to pieces. When we go through these fires as Christians, when we walk as His children, we don't know what people are thinking or watching or seeing in us. And it may not all be smiles and flowers, but they're seeing something in us that will stand out, some kind of faith that carries us through this. And we don't know what they're looking for in their lives. But when they see that, if He can change after throwing men into the fire and seeing them come out, what are they going to see when we go through our fiery trials and when we come out knowing that the Son of Man was with us, that He looked like the Son of God, they said. Something in our countenance, something in our walk, something in our integrity, something in our lives shows something different to others. It shows who we are when we stand. When we're not always in battle, but to understand that they didn't say, King, we're not disrespecting you. They said, King, we don't follow that. This is what our God says. You'll have to do what you want to do, but the integrity of that brings an enduring word. It brings His word to us, and that His faith provides sustenance, provides something for others, to feed others. They'll say, my cup runneth over, it flows to others. That's what if mine does. I don't want it to land in the saucer. I want it to run and flow out to others, that they may receive something from God. And they may also turn to believe the one who walks with me. We're dealing with what we do now on Sundays and Wednesdays. We deal also with a lot of those who are committing suicide or have lives that live with people who are on that verge or have done it. But their faith in what they see pros out to others, and what we faith and what we deal with them brings to others into a line of healing. And if our lives in our walk can reach one person to bring them to the love of Christ, then our whole walk, every furnace we go through, has been worth it. And I keep that in mind when we go through, and when I go through these furnaces, that I've got to keep faith, because I'm not the only one going through this. There's other people that may be there. Now, on a lighter note, I have asked the Lord that, do I really have to go through everything to relate to everybody? I can quit any time. That would be fine, I put out the fire for a while and let me just walk through the empty furnace, But nevertheless, it's the uncompromising integrity with faith over fear. And it's also an even if faith. We know that the divine presence is there. And we know that when we go through these with our lives changing, people see that. Not only the people that don't know Christ, but the people that walk with Him. It can be a light to them. It can be an encouragement to them. It can be something to inspire others to live within that realm, because they see something in you. And it's realizing it's nothing we've done. It's that fourth man that's walking with us in this fire. They see something different in you because of Him, because of your walk with Him, because of your relationship with Him, because of your trust and your faith in Him. They may see you getting weak, but they see your strength growing because you're going through this with Him. And you're not alone. And that may be a point in their life that they need. And it's our servitude that we reach out to others. We want to be the greatest in the kingdom, then we become servants. We wash the feet of those travelers. We give them the coat as well as the cloak. We go an extra mile. And it gets tiresome, and it gets weary, and it gets to the point where you don't feel you can actually go on, but whatever you're going through, He's going through there with you. Even if you don't see Him, hear Him, or have His touch, He says, I will never leave you nor forsake you. So if He's not there, He must have left you, huh? So I reckon He's there. I'm not got the best logical mind sometimes, but it just tells me if He says it, I believe it. And if He says He's there, He's going to be there. And I hate sometimes to have to bring these out in messages, because it scares me going like, okay, Lord, now you're going to have to have me live what I just taught? Am I going to walk out that door and have a fiery furnace waiting on me? But the truth of the matter is, absolutely. But we find with this fourth man, whatever we go through, wherever we go through, there's a purpose that he can use in our lives. And we're going to be okay. Even if, or deliverance, we're going to be okay. And we hope that can spread to others. We hope that will make people want to see him for who he really is, understand him for who he really is, and know him because of our testimony. As in court, what stands up? What you know, not what you're told. So if you're offering someone that's hurting in this world what you've been through, what they see you going through, what they see your faith standing up for, and not compromising on who he is, then your testimony shows them what a believer you are. And how do we ultimately do that? They will know we are Christians by our love. His love through us, in us. There's so many things you could get just out of this one story. You could probably do a whole 6 months on it. And we just look at the basic part, but there's a lot deeper in what we see in these three men. This is just a part of it, but a big part nonetheless. Divine vindication. Let him handle the battles. Let him have revenge. And you just sit back and know that it's going to be the way it should. So when you're thrown into the fire, it's going to be the fact for your growth and for others to see that everything points to Christ. He's the one in our lives to live.